Hello, and welcome to FBL Broadcasting, part of the Canadian Corporation Limited. Yes, they've said again. As my seat keeps on sinking, I'll welcome to everything. Don't forget, join us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We're on there. FBL Broadcasting or FBL Smile, as it says at the bottom left-hand corner there. Or maybe it's on the right-hand corner for some people. I don't know. Whatever. There we go. So it's the last day of COP26. You might have seen a lot going on in the news about them signing treaties, getting things sorted, and at the end of the day, let's all get together and make sure climate change doesn't happen. Let's not go above the 1.5 degrees. So how are they doing? I don't know, really. I was watching some stuff yesterday, obviously doing other stuff for the business, which is one of those interesting things where you just go, oh, okay, well, they all just seem to be deliberating on what they can and can't do, like an incentive on how to, let's get this right. We have a bit where we can give away or help another country that's not so financially, financially, I don't even know. I'm trying to think of the word as my chair keeps on sinking it's doing my head, and let me just push it up. That's really weird. It just so yeah, it doesn't have so much finances, let's put it that way, and so that we can, for instance, lend them money or give them money for a project that will offset their carbon footprint. So they're trying to work out a way of, well, who gets that? Because if, for instance, if England couldn't, or the UK couldn't offset, actually brings me another question: is the UK classed as one, or is it England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, Northern Ireland, I should say, because Ireland is not obviously part of the UK, but Northern Ireland is. So is that different as well? And do they have to offset? That's an interesting one. Or was it just classed as the UK? I'll have to ask somebody about that. Maybe Ed can fill me in with that. So they're coming up with these ideas. It's like, oh, well, can we, can't we? Well, what about if you lend them the money? Then it's just let's just say you offset 200 cubic, whatever, 100 that one, 100 this one. So, you split it in half. That sounds quite fair and simple because you've enabled them to reduce their by 100. And so you've, given them the money. So there's 100. All about money. It's always about money. And it drives me insane that if we're dealing with a climate crisis as bad as what they say it is, then why does it always come down to money? Let's just sort it out. Like when COVID come around, it's interesting how all of a sudden people who were living on the street were found accommodation. What the hell is going on? Stop making it about this stupid thing called money. It's ridiculous. It really is. Let's look at infinite, electricity, get rid of the gas, get rid of the fossil fuels. Brilliant. Let's just do it. Let's just, why does electricity have to be a corporation? I sat in SSE as they're talking about their wind farm that they're building, and that they, everybody sign up and back us and let's do this, we'll put your name on one of the blades, that don't last that long. I think it's about a year or so, and they have to be replaced. They're expensive. But hey, we'll put your name on there. It shows that you're backing us and that you love what we're doing, and that wind turbines are the best thing since sliced bread. Compared to fossil fuels, yes, they are. But they only last for 25 to 35 years. And also it's a corporate. So you take 5 billion from, the people, because it's not the government, it's the people. I can't say this enough. People own the government. The MPs are our representatives, and they need to sort this out. And you need to think about this, people. You seriously do. Whenever you say the government, you mean the people. Always the people. As my chair keeps on sliding down. As you can tell, I'm on a bit of one today. Yes, I am. Because I've had numerous conversations with numerous people, and I spend numerous time when they say, oh, the government doesn't do this and the government does. That's correct. Then you need to speak to your MP. You need to tell your MP. Well, I also, somebody tries to message me. Let's just turn that off. My phone, sorry, not very professional. There we go. Put that out of the way so I don't see it. So you need to tell your MP. And I tell you what, MPs need to, the next time it all comes around, you need to choose independent people because they have more value for your money and they will look after your money, because these MPs are making it corporate. The corporate, they get given incentives or nice little holiday, whatever they get given. I mean, it's in the press at the moment. I can't say this enough. if you want to change, if you want to make things different, yeah, you need to stop letting the corporate sort the stuff out. Because they're only interested in money and shareholders and stock, premiums and all that. So all they're interested in is money, always money, which makes them think that they're bigger than everybody else, which they're not. Right, I've had my rant. I'll carry on. Let me know in the comments, people, please. As always, you know me. I like to cause, I like to stir it up a bit. Right. Anyway, let me quickly go back to Ed. Well, climate scientists Europe. Scientists warning Europe. I've told it film today, but that's what was down on the spreadsheet there. Me and Will have this spreadsheet going, and obviously it hasn't been updated, but it's actually mobilizing humanity, leadership to prevent extinction is the actual title. So I'll change that on all the other stuff later. I really will. But let me know, people, in the comments. I mean, the press conference goes live about 3:15 is what it says. So, well, I'll bring that to you as soon as they bring it up. Like yesterday was quite interesting because they literally made it live 2 seconds before they went live, which was very, very, very well, I'll just cut me out then. There we go. But hopefully they'll give us a minute so you can see them getting all ready and then we'll sitting in places and sorting themselves out, ready for the actual official press conference. So yeah, let me know what you in the comments, please. Especially, have you looked at any of the other scientists warning Europe press conferences I've been broadcasting, especially when I was on scene as well for 3 days? Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think. Do you think this COP26 is any COP? There we go. This chair is driving me nuts today, people. Yeah, so is the COP what you thought it would be? I mean, this is the 26th one. From the scientists have always been warning. This is what I've learned. They've always been telling them constantly, change, do this. Ice is melting, seas are rising, CO2 is rising, methane is a problem. And only now recently, all of a sudden, they're taking notice. What do you think of that? Let me know in the comments. I will get back to you because we all have the ability to comment. And I do, when people message me, I get people message me directly telling me their thoughts. I'm saying, put it down on the channel, put it down on the video, get the chat going, get things moving. Let's work that, let people see that there is other people that think the same as you, because a lot of people don't like to speak out. And that's a shame because they're scared that society will ridicule them. And thoughts and theories and ideas need to be brought to the front. So by doing so, you're actually enabling other people. So make of that as what you will. So COP26, all the world's leaders are there or have been there. We've even, Barack Obama popped in, jumped on a plane. Do you know what? I might pop past Glasgow, have a little chat, tell him a few little things. Yeah. Interesting that the stuff that was under his realm of when he was president didn't happen. Quite interesting. There was a few things said about that in regards to, it's great that he came and he said what he said, but actually under his presidency, things didn't happen. He promised things that didn't happen. See, these people are there. They're put in place and they say their thing that they're going to do. But the reality is there is other entities in force who are like, well, no, we're not going to accept. I don't care what you say. And this is where it comes back to the people. For instance, SSE, Scottish Electricity, or whoever SSE stands for. Should really know off the top of my head, but I can't remember. But they're investing in wind turbines. So why, if they're moving more to renewable energy, then why is the fuel cost going up by 50%? And that could be down to the devaluing of the pound. Not that they're saying that they've done that, like quantitative easing, but there we go. This chair is getting lower. It's not your screen's going wrong, people. It does keep. It's just on a wind up today. I don't know. Maybe it's trying to destabilize me. So where does I mean, if we invest, for instance, imagine it was a 10 million project and we invest 5 million, as in the people, not the government. The government doesn't invest. They're just, they're our pawns, basically. They go in there. We're the kings and the queens. We give them the money for them to go and give away, and in the best way that they think is possible. So they give them, for instance, 5 million. Well, then we own half of that plant, or half of the energy that is created and the money that is charged. We get half of that. It comes back to the people, to the government, which is the people. It comes back to us, and then we can either reinvest that or lower our taxes. There's a thought. What do you think to that? Well, I, again, jump up, let my seat come up. Gee, man, what a day. And there we go. So it's the last day. Anyway, COP26. Let me know your thoughts, please, people. What do you think? Really, what you think? What have you been? I've been putting the links out there, letting you see there's easier ways to find and look and see what is out there. There's loads of like indigenous people and stuff. And I watched something on there where they were talking and explaining what they're going through in climate change. So let me know if you don't believe in climate change. There you go. There's another thing. I like to see both sides of the story. I like to look at it as a whole. There's people who believe and there's people who don't believe. There's good and there's evil. There's light and there's dark. Just because somebody doesn't agree with something doesn't mean that they should be chastised for it. Unless it produces hatred and killing people, then that's just wrong. The idea of just people killing each other is wrong anyway, full stop. So let me know your thoughts. Put them down in the comments. Let's hear them, because coming in the next few weeks, we're going to start doing a weekly show, and I want people to start coming on there. I know that you all like to fill in your comments because don't worry, I want to go on air. I don't want people to see my face. I don't want stand up and be counted. People may ridicule you, but say, well, then go on the show. If you disagree with what I say, go on the show. Martin, FBL Smiler, he doesn't mind. As long as you don't preach hatred, job done. I like both sides of the story. There is so many things that go on where you're persecuted just for your belief or your idealism or what you think is right. And one of them is mask wearing. You don't wear a mask. We've got to wear a mask. No, you don't. You don't have to wear one. If you think that little micro COVID, whatever they say it is not able to penetrate that mask, think again. It might stop you, touching your face. That's what it really does. Idea of bacteria or whatever. If you want to go down that lines, virologists out there are probably shouting at me. I know. Come on, talk about it. Let people understand. I'm not educated at all in that way. I'm a speck in a minute molecule of sand in a desert when it comes to knowing all that. But I know people who do express a lot to me and say a lot to me in regards to it. So, like I say, I've got my fingers in all the pies, so I'm fat. There we go. So, fingers are in all the pies. That's because I like to know about a lot of the things that go around and how everything interacts and how it works. That's how I like to do. Like when I worked in corporations, I don't just go into the part of the business that I know. I go into the parts of the business I don't know, and I work out why and how that interacts and how that has an impact from what I do. And that's a good way to look at life. Just because you do one thing, don't think that's it. I can just throw my hands up, job done. See how it impacts other people or how you can help other people by even making a little change that actually you didn't even think of. And I've found myself being very successful in other business ventures and ideas that I do because I do that. I want to know what other people that I have no idea about. But I've got an it's like, do you know what? There's a problem. There's a problem with the feed. This could be interesting. Let me just see.
Foundation.
Oh, here we go.
Earth Song. the Alliance of World Scientists, then also for helping us get here at COP26, Sustainable Population Australia, Interfaith Centre for Sustainable Development, the International Society for Ecological Economics,
Facing Future Earth and the Tzu Chi Foundation. Now, we're here particularly today because we're launching a new film. There was the World Scientists' Warnings into Action paper that was already produced and brought out, and a film has now been brought out by Jonathan Clay, the director of the last David Attenborough and Johan Rockström film on Netflix, and today is the day we launch it. Anybody that would want to see it at home, you can immediately go to scientistswarningfilm.com, that's scientistswarningfilm.com, and you can see it immediately. The paper that we're celebrating through the film is the fourth great scientist's warning to humanity, the World Scientists' Warnings into Action. That you can find on planetincrisis.com, and any scientist, any graduate scientist around the world can go there and sign the paper. Already 2,500 scientists from around the world have signed it. And in fact, the paper itself was officially published this morning. Now, the World Scientists' Warning into Action paper goes through 6 main stressors as to the last 2 great warnings, and that is nature, food, economy, energy, population, and pollutants. And it looks at them and looks at levels of leadership required with actions for levels of leadership all around the world, starting at community and parish level, moving up through local authorities, counties and states to national level, and at COP26 and what we need from our international leaders. Now, we are here to sort out the starting of the film. We want to thank Jonathan Clay, the main director, but also Lena Kabaj, who was the assistant director on the film. We'd also like to then thank all of the production team that were doing it. Many of them work for free, giving their time. So here it is. It's a short film, and we'll be talking more about leadership afterwards.
Oh, I wish I knew before. I wish I knew much earlier on.
I wish I really.
If I had known.
When I came into it, I was just like, yeah, we're going to change all this. We're going to stop offshore drilling. We're going to make sure that this environmental agency stops allowing chemical facilities to pollute in lower income Black and Latino neighborhoods. And then realizing like, oh, people have been actually working on that for decades. I'm just new to the game.
Had been longing for seeing scientists get their hands dirty, get into the crux of the matter, get into the eye of the storm.
We are not yet able as a scientific community to help grab our fellow earthlings by the scruff of the neck and say, come, we are heading into big changes.
I wonder a lot about whether being a scientist is the best thing to do in the times of these urgent environmental crises.
So it's only immediate, rapid and far-reaching action that's going to keep 1.5 degrees within reach.
For how much longer can you shout louder in more dramatic font? We need to rethink the fundamental assumptions of what we're doing.
These times are going to call on us to be the best people that we can be.
We have to translate our outrage, our fears, our anxieties, our grief about what's happening into action.
I myself have realized how hard it is, even for one person that gets into government and wants to pursue a transformative agenda, to do so alone.
It's really, really important, I think, that we support each other to take political action.
If you want to take climate action, you can. You don't have to be perfect. The world isn't on my shoulders. It's not on your shoulders. It's all of us together.
We understand enough. We understand plenty. All of our problems are fundamentally political. They're fundamentally about people. They're about our institutions. They're about our governance.
It's time to stand together to face down corruption and vested interests.
We need to let go of things we've gotten so accustomed to, so familiar, so dependent on for a long time, including not just habits and behaviors, but ways of thinking.
Visionary leadership doesn't come out of the sky. It needs to be team play at its best.
Changing the time horizons upon which we make decisions is really a big and important part of this. yes, scientists are critical to this equation, but so is everybody else.
It's like a two-way process. I have to listen to lots of people because there are lots of things I don't know.
I used to think that things would just happen, maybe by magic, but you make the change happen by walking the talk.
For many years, I felt that I was just saying, the world doesn't have to be this way. We can change it. Only in the last 5 years, I've felt that we can say we are changing it.
Together we can and must succeed.
You are the people who make the difference.
Be courageous.
To do whatever we can.
The choice is in our hands.
Great. Thank you very much. And the film there is talking about what needs to be done, not by the scientists. The science is clear, and we're talking about what needs to be done by the political decision makers and all of the other leaders around us. And directly before COP, 2 days before, Scientists Warning issued a letter to Prime Minister Boris Johnson and to Prime Minister Mario Draghi as the hosts of the COP. And we issued this letter asking them for bold action. It was signed by 28 of the world's top climate scientists and other experts, including Dr. James Hansen in America and Sir David King in the UK. And the only bit of science in it is it says that the only target is 2030 for carbon zero, or as soon as possible. 2050 is not the target. It will never keep us safe and ensure survival on the planet. We issued this to these two great leaders, and we hope that they're taking notice of it now as we come to the end of COP26. Now, we now have statements from a number of the scientists that have been involved with us at different stages. Some are authors of the paper, some are signatories of the letter, some are both. And we're going to hear from them now before we move on to talk to our two guests here. So Dr. Victoria Hirth here on my right, and Dr. Paul Behrens here on my left. So here are the statements from scientists abroad. And we're starting with Kevin Anderson, who was a signatory of the letter.
The COP26 text makes clear that the policymakers do not seem to understand that climate only responds to the total amount of greenhouse gases we put in the atmosphere, and not to eloquent speeches, to accountancy scams, or to short-term politics. If we are to meet our commitments to 1.5 to 2 degrees centigrade of warming, then we need to recognise that we need to stop immediately seeking out any new fossil fuel supply and to phase out existing supply as a matter of urgency, and that this needs to be done with equity at its core.
Now, Phoebe Barnard was one of the two lead authors on the paper. She's also a signatory of the letter and on the board of Scientists Warning Europe.
I'm Phoebe Barnard, and I led the drafting of the World Scientists Warning into Action Local to Global paper. I've worked in science and public policy for 34 years in Southern Africa, national development, biodiversity, climate change. Science is such an important issue for humanity, but it's only a tiny part of the solution. We scientists need to join together with public policy makers, civil society groups, educators, faith communities, artists, everybody. Time to stand up and help grasp this crossroads of civilization, people. Join us. Thank you.
Professor Chris Rhodes, also an author of the paper and a signatory of the letter.
I'm Chris Rhodes. I co-wrote the energy section of the Scientists Warning into Action paper, and I would particularly like to emphasize the need for better use of energy, energy conservation, retrofitting buildings, insulating them properly, draft busting them, and also relocalization, reconfiguring towns and cities so we can do more of what we do on a local level and cut back on our use of transportation fuel. We could probably cut our energy use by 50% by such means.
Now we have Professor Bill Moomaw. Professor Bill Moomaw was also one of the lead authors on the paper, and again, a signatory of the letter.
The failure to slow and reverse climate change has committed the next 40 generations to rising sea level. But there's still an opportunity to slow and reverse the frequency and intensity of storms, heat waves, wildfires, and other climate-related disasters. We can no longer wait for laggard governments before acting. Let us join with willing governments as citizens, corporations, cities, and states to act now. Growing our existing forests, improving energy efficiency, and utilizing zero-carbon technologies are the least costly and most effective means to avoid dangerous human interference with the climate system.
Professor Stefano Tibaldi was a signatory of the letter and is based in Italy, so it was very relevant with several other of the signatories that came from Italy.
International politics and decision makers must be more courageous and more generous. The international community must take binding commitments to eliminate all coal-based power plants, not only the particularly dirty ones, and to eliminate all subsidies to fossil fuels, not only those to the so-called inefficient ones. Otherwise, we won't be going anywhere other than towards climatic disaster. And we need to put on the table more economic resources to support the transition in poorer countries. We must recognize that rich countries are the main producers of greenhouse gases emissions and have a moral obligation to compensate poorer countries which suffer the most climate change and do not have sufficient resources to manage the transition.
Philip Weber, Professor Chris Rapley. Again, Chris was actually an author of the paper and a signatory of the letter as well.
The climate and nature emergencies are happening now. To tackle them, we need to transform the way we power, finance, and govern the modern world. Actions drive beliefs and accelerating action. That's why the New World Scientist Warning Paper lays out a roadmap of progress from local to global. I'm hoping that the impotence of the political world, so evident at COP26, will trigger a social tipping point that people will rise up, in which case the Scientist Warning Roadmap can be pivotal.
Now, Philip Weber. Philip is actually the head of Scientists for Global Responsibility.
Hello, I'm a scientist and the chairperson of Scientists for Global Responsibility UK. 26 COPs have failed to reduce emissions so far, which just continue to rise. Climate overheating is already causing terrible harm, crippling poorer and smaller states, and threatens larger states also. For this COP to be different, there must be binding agreements to stop extracting more fossil fuels now. Promises for 2050 are empty promises, and that's too slow and too late. It would be a gross failure to leave these massive problems for the next generation. So we must have action now. Thank you.
And finally, Professor Stuart Parkinson, who was a signatory of the letter to the two Prime Ministers.
World leaders have a lack of ambition when it comes to tackling the climate crisis. If this were a military threat, resources would be found. Instead, we have excuses. During the COP26 negotiations, there have been particular failings. We need a rapid phase out of fossil fuel subsidies. We need an end to fossil fuel exploration. We need to shut out the fossil fuel industry lobbyists. They are no better than tobacco industry lobbyists. We need to count and cut military carbon. We need to curb the high pollution activities of the rich who have caused and continue to cause the overwhelming majority of the problem. This is the least we should be doing.
So thanks to all those scientists, we're now talking about action and the type of leadership that we need to do it. So I'd like to now bring in our two live guests here, and I'm thankful for them to be here supporting us today. So thank you very much, Victoria. So Dr. Victoria Hirth. Victoria, could you talk to us then about what types of leadership we're going to need if we're going to get this kind of action that everybody is asking for?
Yeah, absolutely. We have to recognize, I'm sure a lot of people do, that the level of inertia that is in our current system. We have essentially, as the ultimate governing body, society, enabled most of our national governments to focus in on financial income and balancing the books as the key way to show us that they're doing a good job, which is why GDP has become the metric reported on the news and what everyone looks at. And this reflects the economic system at large. And the idea being that that is a good proxy for our long-term well-being. for the long-term well-being of everybody. And because of that myopia, the ultimate ends of long-term well-being for all, which is the definition of sustainability and sustainable development, have gone unaccounted for, and we have not held accountability to them. And the ultimate means on which that rests have also been out of sight. So that's the situation for leadership that we find ourselves in. So we need to be pushing for leaders to understand that that is where they currently are and that they need to move beyond. And to move beyond any leadership is about being able to break those current norms. And the breaking norms starts with understanding the norms that you are constrained by. So we will know that we've got the leadership we need, that is brave and vulnerable and purpose-driven, because it is anchored to long-term well-being for all. We will know that we have got that when we start to see leaders who put themselves into the shadows to put the purpose first and make decisions that go against their personal best interests or the interests of their party in order to achieve that. This week, we saw the death of W.D. de Klerk, and that is, of course, an example of a leader who took the moment in history that he was given in order to seal his demise and his party's demise for a greater good. So unless we're seeing that happening, then we know that we don't have the leadership we need. And on a more strategic level, we need plans now for what will happen this year and what will happen next year. Because to be honest, those are the only things that matter now. The rest really is just blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely. So 2050 is completely ridiculous. I think we all realize that now. The scientists keep telling us, and we've just got to absolutely act and require that our leaders act on 2030 or something that's actually going to get us somewhere towards survival. I also am joined as well here with Dr. Paul Behrens. And I think, Paul, if we throw it over to you on the leadership side, and let's think about what's happening today. Victoria's set out the types of leadership we need and the sort of moral fiber that's required to do it. What should we want to get from our leaders at COP26?
Well, from COP26, we really need to see an acknowledgement of the failure of developed countries to provide climate finance for the developing countries around the world. It'll be 2023 until we get the 100 billion. That 100 billion is actually really poorly defined anyway, lumped together loans and grants and investments. Some estimates by Oxfam place the actual amount of grants as only 22 billion in 2017. We need to see a increased frequency of the ratchet, of the announcements of NDCs. That would be incredibly important. And that would also keep pace with the changing climate that we're actually also seeing. It's worthwhile mentioning that whilst the assessments of temperature have been very accurate, there has been a broad underestimation of the large-scale energy changes on the planet and what the implications of that are on all of the food systems that support us, food and water systems that support us. So when we're talking about the leadership, we absolutely need to see those two first steps. We obviously need to see announcements for 1.5 degrees in terms of the targets. Now it's understandable that perhaps the policies to actually make it all the way down to 1.5 degrees would come afterwards, when countries go back to their constituencies and then start to talk about what policies they need to get there. But as Ed and Victoria has been saying, we absolutely need to have that 1.5 degrees. And in terms of the leadership, just to follow on from what Victoria was saying about personal best interest, it is worthwhile remembering that the vast majority of emissions are from the richest 10% of the population. And so we need the leaders to actually listen to their constituencies. If you actually talk to the public about what they want, they are far beyond where the politics is at. You had publics around the world talking about frequent flyer levies, banning SUVs, reducing meat, all sorts of different things that nobody is talking openly about at the highest political levels in different countries. So leadership is really about understanding that the population are far beyond where the current narrative is. They may be surprised by that, but things are shifting very, very quickly, and it's being ahead of that social tipping point so that you can actually harness it for the good, rather than dragging your feet and not actually engaging in that social tipping point and allowing that to move forwards. So, yeah, a few things that we could see in the next couple of days or so.
And a brilliant way of putting it, actually. The social tipping point is what we're absolutely looking for. I'm going to come to both of our speakers, and again, straight away afterwards for about a minute to, if you could personally express your frustration or anger or whatever it would be about the process and perhaps the fact you've been talking about it all the time, but I just want to read out a passage actually from the letter that was written to the two prime ministers. In this letter, we avoid stating the latest facts to you, scientific facts to you again. What's the point? The scientific world has researched and reported, peer-reviewed and presented, report after report after report. Most scientists are quite frankly fed up. The dire facts have all been presented, re-presented, re-examined, time and again. Now it is the 12th hour, a minute before midnight. Now is the time for moral courage and real leadership. Now, I don't know how that makes you feel, Victoria, but I wondered if you would like to add a few words to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I started my journey in 2002, Joburg Summit. And as the first guest on the video expresses, you know, this is not, I was late to the party. We knew about this. And to be able to look populations and younger children in the eyes and say, you know, what did we do? It's absolutely a shocking failure of leadership. When I hear leaders like Biden say, hang on, but it's going to take time, you know, let's not rush it, it's complicated. And we've been saying that every single year. It's frankly unacceptable to the largest possible degree, especially when we know it will take, even in financial terms, a fraction of GDP. And we also know, as was very clearly expressed, that the society wants this. So what is stopping the progress we need? And I can only imagine that it must be immediate self-interest, because I don't think anything else makes sense. And to be honest, this is the future of humanity. And for immediate self-interest of a few people and their friends to take down humanity's future and our long-term well-being, is frankly shocking, and we shouldn't let it happen.
Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say that these people aren't engaging in the emotions of the situation. Maybe they can convince themselves through policy documents, through the colours on scientific reports, through sort of the terminology that's washed of the emotion that's actually happening as a result of these changes in the planet. And I don't think that they've actually been hit in the gut yet with the sensation that I think a lot of us in the room have gone through. And so when I see the delays, the lack of appreciation of these impacts, it makes me very sad. But I do have hope that the citizens' assemblies, that the citizens' actions can actually push governments to actually feel that emotional connection. Because I think once you have that emotional connection, it's worthwhile doing absolutely everything that you can possible. And if you're going to have people who are without shame, frankly, if you look at politicians who are taking private jets to go have dinners after leaving COP, for example, then we need to vote them out, and they should have shame. So that's what we need to see. We need to see politicians actually engaging emotionally with what this means and what this means for the future of them, for the future of their children. This is coming fast, and they need to take leadership.
Thanks, Paul. I'm really angry. I spend all my time talking to scientists, and I'm really, really late to the party, but I am so angry that we keep coming back to it again and again and again. I'm angry that I went through in July 2019 an ecological conversion that shook me to the core. I'm really angry that it happened to me and that anybody let it get to that situation. I mean, I actually had a nightmare where I saw my children, who are 10 and 12 now, turning up to my house at the age of 30. They were knocking on the door, and then they came in, they dropped their army bags down into the hall. And in their green khakis, they come in to find me in the living room having a coffee. And they say to me, they've just come back from Europe, where they've been shooting people to stop them getting the drinking water. And they tell me that the people they're shooting are poor people who want the drinking water. And they're not getting killed because they've got all the kit and the flak jackets and they've got bigger guns, but they could get killed. And they're shooting poor people with smaller guns. And they say to me in my nightmare that they're doing that to keep us in Britain living in the luxury lifestyle we've always liked. And they say to me, so you knew about this, didn't you, Papa, 20 years ago? And what did you do about it? And I woke up with tears coming down my face, and I was saying, mouthing the words, but I had a mortgage, and I had to look after you, and I had a job. Was just not good enough, is it? And it's just not good enough with our leaders either. I was unfortunate enough to be at an event only a couple of days ago where I put it to a bunch of politicians sitting there from different countries. And I said to them, look, 2050 is not going to work. All the scientists say that. And we have to act now. We have to do the bigger stuff now for the survival of humanity. And the first answer from one of those politicians, which was brutally honest, I have to say, and she said, look, no politician's going to do it because if they take targets like 2030, they won't be elected at the next election. Right, well, it's a different kind of leadership we need now. We need a leader, and it doesn't matter whether it's community level or at mid-state, city level or at national level, that actually says it's the right thing to do. I've been told by the doctor I'm sick and I've got to change my behavior. In this case, I've been told by thousands of scientists. There are tens of thousands who've signed the 4 great warnings, and they have told us there isn't time. They've told us we've got to act now. They've told us that the time we need to get to carbon zero is getting sooner and sooner, not further away. We have to do it now. And what these leaders have got to do is they've got to say, right, I believe the science. I know I've got to do it now. It's morally the right thing to do, but ridiculously, it's not just the morally right thing to do. It's about survival. So if we want to survive on the planet, and even our kids, or even we in the room here, want to have a planet that we can live on properly, we need to take the action now. So those leaders have got to say, I don't care about what the polls might show. I've got to do the right thing, but then I'm going to take everybody with me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to my community, to my country, and I'm going to explain why I'm doing this, because I have to do it. Because we have to go first, because we can't wait for every other country to do it or every other city to do it. We have to get out from the blocks and show people how to do it. But we need that leadership at individual level, community level, parish, city, all of those levels. And we need these leaders now. We can't wait for them anymore. So we've got to get out the blocks and get on with it. Now, I've said it before in some of these press conferences, but I think the analogy still works. You know, we're running the marathon, okay? We want to break the world record. In fact, everybody wants to break the world record in the marathon, and it's going to be a tough race. And we're all out running a marathon, okay? And there's a big group of runners at the front, and halfway through, they're all competitive, but they're well off the pace. They're off the pace because they're looking at 2050. And what we need to do is to get onto that world record pace and get there by 2030. So we need a real leader, 1 or 2 real leaders to break from the front and go for it. And they might not make it. But if they do make it, they're going to save us. And if they don't make it, they've had a really good try. And they've done the sort of stuff that we all need to inspire us at every other level to follow them. And if they go for it, other leaders will come with them as well. And that's what we need at COP. 30% methane reductions by 2030? Rubbish! Give us 100%. Give us what we need and allow us to survive on the planet and show us why you're elected as a leader and move us forward. Thank you for coming.
Wow, there you have it. I don't think it was just me who had my Weetabix this morning. I honestly don't. Wow, I didn't know that was coming today. I really didn't. As you see there, Will, my person I communicate with, just going up there to chat to them. Alison's saying some good stuff as well. So there's the other delegate there. It's, I think people, sorry, I'm just trying to press the right button. There we go. It looks like Friday, the last day of COP, has sorted a few things, I think. I think people are kind of saying, this is ridiculous. And Ed said it. I mean, he's very passionate up there, as you can see. It was, oh, well, I'm supposed to get rid of that now. I'm dumbfounded, really am. I mean, it's extraordinary that those 3 up there literally said exactly what I've been saying at the start of all this as well, to be fair. I've been saying this for a long time. How I use FBL to allow the independent candidates to come forward and actually explain what they do. Just like when it came to the Police Complaints Commissioner. Get the independent in, not the voted in a political powered individual, i.e. somebody of Conservative, Labour or Lib Dem or any other party. You want an independent. You want somebody in a position who actually is doing it for good, they just literally, I just want to make things right. I just want things better. I just want society to have a better footing. But when you start having all these political parties and these leaders of these political parties who go to the certain red brick universities, who go to, certain organizations and have their life already paid out for them so that they, financially never have to struggle. And it's all about keeping in with each other. And you, the people, need to start looking at this. You need to start understanding. And I got to admit, I thought I had my rant at the start of this broadcast, but Ed carried on and said the other two there. And so did all the other scientists who said their bit as well. So I'm not going to spout on anymore. I'm going to let you comment. I want you to start putting in the comments. I need you to start thinking, start looking at what's going on around you, and understand that it doesn't matter what political party, left or right, that you vote for. They all want the same thing. They're all in it for the money. They're all in it for the greed. They're all in it for the power. Start looking at the people who stand up, who pay out their own pocket money to stand to say, hey, I'm an independent. I'm here and vote for me. And they're up against a juggernaut of these political parties who have all the money and they put in the time and they've got all their people who are willing to help. Well, I'll tell you what, if you help these political parties, start looking, think, are they actually doing what you want them to do? Are they actually pursuing what you want? Now, don't get me wrong. If you want to vote Conservative and you agree with their ideals and you like what they do, then you continue voting Conservative. Just the same for Labour or Liberal Democrat. But really look at who you're voting for. We just had Armistice Day. The 11th of the 11th is such a big day. The poppy. People die for the privilege for us to be the way we are in society today. My biggest question is, did they actually die for what we actually have or what we believe we have? It's an interesting quote there. You can mark me by it. If you want to argue it with me, put it in the comments. Because I'm telling you now, the political parties are aligned for financial greed. They don't care. Saying, how can they sell something to you? And again, think about it. All the money that you pay in taxes, yet they can give 5 million, billion, whatever, to whatever organization locally to build extra wind farms, blah, blah, blah. If you run a business like I do, and I run it, and I'm not making it a charity, and I should do, because then I could get lots of grants. I run it as a business because I don't want to be held by a charity ideal, because, looking at charities, if you follow the money, you might be quite, disgraced at where it actually goes and what actually is spent on. I want FBL to be, somewhere where you can come and you can actually, we speak truth and we get people to speak truth. And if they don't, well, they either apologize that they got it wrong, like I do. I don't always get things right. I might say stuff that might not be right. I believe it is. And then somebody says, hey, dude, you got this bit wrong. Here you go. Look at this. And I go, I need to apologize for that then. I've just been educated. Because sometimes it's just education. We so much push on people. And we go, you got it wrong. Well, yeah. But if you then enlighten them and show them, and they go, do you know what? I was wrong. A lot is said to somebody who will apologize and admit when they're wrong. And I will do it if I am wrong. But these politicians, they stand up there and they say, past coal, past gases, past oil and all this lot. What have they got lined up? What are they doing? Now, again, Ed's right there on what he just said in regards to we need to be doing it right now. And that politician who said to him, but we want to get re-elected. You don't go a political career. That's what they're on about. Well, pays the mortgage, doesn't it? And I get to hobnob with all these other people and do the secret handshakes and whatever. Well, there you go. Yeah, somebody who's independent, they're just like, I'm just doing my job. I'm paid by the people to represent them. And if they don't want me to represent them anymore, okay, I'll go back to what I was doing before. Make a choice, people. I know we've got a few years before we have another election. But what you can do and what you should do is you feel so strongly, look at what they're agreeing in Parliament. If you want some links, let me know. I'll send them to you. You can see how they're voting. Every MP. Excuse me, I need to cough. Every MP. See what they're voting for. The ones that you've just elected in. Are they voting the way you want them to vote? Would you agree with how they're voted? But apparently, that's what they accept. They reckon is right. Or are they being pushed by their political party to do so? I tell you what, I want somebody in a position of like an MP or even Prime Minister who doesn't care if they get in 4 or 5 years' time. They will do what's right for the people. And if the people don't like that after a while, then do you know what? They get voted out. So what? I did what I had to do. You know, put people first. Put Earth first. There we go, people. Well, the rant. It's been a rant. So let me know in the comments. Sorry if it seems a bit like you've been preached to today. Again, Ed and the team there, and all those other scientists who did that video or their videos. It's that thing, isn't it? I think everybody's woke up today and just gone, do you know what? We've been talking for 2 weeks. We've done all this. Bad enough. Another year before the next COP. Do we have another year? You know, are we going to, I don't know, something happened and we go above the 1.5, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. But I know from the scientists that I've met for those 3 days I was in Glasgow and I attended COP26. They're saying some interesting stuff, whether you're a believer or a non-believer in climate change. The stuff they were telling me, I had a really good conversation with. And that was worth its weight in gold, chatting to those scientists. But you, the people, get the choice here every so many years to vote. So stop thinking about, oh, well, I've always voted Labour, I've always voted Conservative, I've always voted Liberal. I got met in the Aylesbury area, Liberal Democrat, Frida Roberts. So sorry that she's passed. She's done loads for me. You know, a true person who I walked, you know, I reached out to her. She invited me around for a cup of tea. I told her my position. She helped me. She moved mountains, that woman did. And I thank her. And, you know, I say to her family, you know, I'm sorry for your loss. And, you know, she was a mighty woman. She, you know, she was Liberal Democrat. So all I can say there is that, okay, she did good. So maybe somebody who is, you know, local, I mean, she never made MP. So how would it have been if she did? But I don't believe she did anyway. Actually, maybe somebody can let me know in the comments. But she did want to do a lot of good. And I can tell you, I didn't really think much of her because I was young and I'm stupid. Didn't understand what this woman had done and the way she worked and how she, but, you know, when I put my, you know, somebody said, you know, reach out to Frida, let her know. And I did. And she helped me. She helped my family. I also reached out to the Conservatives to get nothing back. Oh, just don't worry out, whatever, blah, blah, blah. We will, blah, blah, blah. Get back to you soon. And she never did. It's interesting. You have a choice, people. If you're happy with paying more in taxes, if you're happy with allowing them to, you know, sell you a crock of crap, basically, then continue on. Just keep doing it. And at some point, let's just say global climate hits 2% or 2 degrees. Excuse me. Who do you think will be living in the bubbles? The expensive places where the heat doesn't matter, where the coldness doesn't matter. And who do you think will be shivering or burning? Them or you? There you go, people. Nice way to start the weekend, isn't it? Nice way. I know. Again, I smile about things because I like, of course, smiler. Let me know in the comments. Look, find me on Instagram. You can find me at FBL Smiler. Twitter, FBL Broadcasting. Facebook, FBL Broadcasting. Of course, on the YouTube channel too. Again, I'm going to start doing a show every week. Try and join me. Meanwhile, before we get to that, do put in the comments. Tell me how you found COP26. Tell me how you found this conference, this press conference as well by Scientists Warning Europe. And again, I'd like to thank them and everybody who's very hospitable to me as I got up there for my 3 days. I wish I could have stayed longer. Other commitments, though, unfortunately. But I see what you've done. I saw where what Ed was doing and Will and everybody else, Scientists Warning and these other scientists. But it's interesting. These scientists are now turning around saying what I'm saying. They're only self-preservation. They're trying to maneuver. So if you've got world scientists saying it, you've got me saying it, you've got other people saying it, stop with the blinkers, people. Follow, comment, let me know. Now, look, have a great weekend, everyone. Honestly, I think the cold weather's coming, so try and enjoy what you can. But get out there more. 20 minutes of sunshine, vitamin D. Helps your immunity, especially if you're worried about COVID, which I'm not, by the way. Forget it. If there is such thing. Not that it's been proven, blah, blah, blah. But that's on another show. You can see that. But have a good weekend. Follow me, subscribe, like, thumbs up, hashtag FBL, whatever. It's all out there. Let's all stay connected. Let's all keep the conversation going. Let's all be nice to each other. And don't forget, please and thank you. That's a long way. Have a good weekend.